Let's get into this right now with Chris Kenny, Stephen Conroy. Lads, hello, nice to see you. Before we get into the inevitable endless agreements we will have this evening about wages policy and all the rest of it, let's talk about this polling that's dropped tonight. Stephen, obviously, if it's correct, hallelujah, congratulations, well done, high fives. But is it reasonable, the pinch of salt that I've put on the table, when people actually read some detail behind this?
Yeah, look, I think obviously it's a new polling method. I mean, that's the first thing you've got to note. So it doesn't have a track record in Australia for accuracy yet, so it'll be an interesting test. I think all of the points you've raised are absolutely valid, and I'd probably add a couple of others in terms of the individual seats, not just the size of the number. But let me give you two seats that I've dug into. I've got my iPad here with the info dug into. Bass and Braddon, two critical seats in Tasmania. And in Bass, it's very marginal, around less than 1%. And the Liberals have a preference deal with Jackie Lambie. And Jackie Lambie's polling, or the other, which includes Jackie Lambie's polling, 10%. Yet they give this as a win to Labor Party. And in Braddon, where Jackie Lambie, showing what a sophisticated political operator she is today, and I remember her fondly from when she came into the Senate in 2013, but she is a seriously sophisticated political operator now. She's done a deal to preference Labor in Braddon, and the Jackie Lambie other vote is 18%. And they predict that Braddon will be held by the Liberals. So I don't know quite how they've managed to, what weightings they've put onto some of these assumptions, but a had a vote card in someone's hand, handed to them on the polling booth, is an important factor. And I don't know if they've been able to factor that into those two Tasmanian seats. Some of them are so small they've got the margin of error defined as 10%. Well, I mean, you shouldn't produce a poll with a margin of error of 10% because you may as well literally just stick your head out the window and go, what do you all think? So on some of the individual seat by seat, I'm not sure you can take it to the bank or go to the sports bet and put a bit of money on sports on these seats based on this. The other thing, it is absolutely accepted that the last 10 days of the 2019 campaign, there was the undecideds broke. The weight of Clive Palmer's advertising changed from being 50-50, pox on both your houses, to, shifty Shorten, don't vote for Shorten. And it's absolutely regarded that those last 10 days were critical to shifting the result of the election. Well, if this poll had any courage, it would have been produced next week, and we could have had a look. Because now they say, we're not a crystal ball, we're just saying this is what happened 10, 12 days out.
Yeah.
But the problem is the vote changed substantially in 2019 in the last 10 days. So there's a whole bunch of factors that show that it'll be really interesting to see how close this gets to the truth, as in the vote on the night.
Well, again, if they've nailed it,
time.
this is the new way to do it. And then, this is the pair of crystal balls that, we'll be looking at all times. Sorry, Mum, I didn't mean to be so disgusting. Chris, obviously, it's put out by your paper. I'm not S-canning.
Sorry, Paul, just before you jump to Chris, just one more point. There's a bloke called Nate Silver in the US who's used statistical modelling like this to predict American elections. And he was very successful for a couple. He got 2016 Donald Trump completely wrong. So you can be right one time and completely wrong another time. Nate Silver was once rated one of the most 100 influential people because he so successfully predicted. But his model fell apart when it came to Donald Trump in 2016. Yeah. So, sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to cut across you there.
Now, Chris, I want to get to fighting on wages, but just the pinch of salt. Do you put some pinches of salt there, or is this could this be the new way to tell us what's going to happen? If so, Albo wins.
Yeah, look, you've got to look at all the data. You've got to feed it into all your assessments, but I don't place a lot of faith in this. I know it's my paper. I haven't spoken to them about it. I've read all the detail. But initially I thought 19,000 people, 151 seats. That's only 125 people in each seat. That's a pathetically small sample. But of course, what this is, as you've been discussing, is extrapolating all sorts of other data on top of it. Now, Nate Silver in the US, I've interviewed him and read his book, and yes, he was very successful for a while, but he has a lot more data to deal with in the States. Obviously, there's a lot more polling, and even then it fell apart. You know, if you're talking about the voting habits of the university-educated or the tradies in suburban Sydney, there's going to be a huge difference between the way they vote in a Sydney electorate compared to Melbourne or Adelaide or Perth, because there's all sorts of other factors, the state governments, pandemic management, cultural issues. So there's a lot here to unpack, and I don't place a lot of store in it at all, except to say that the result it finds is obviously one of the possible ones. We are in a situation now, 10 days from the poll, where we know we could end up with a Labor majority, a coalition majority, or perhaps more likely something in between a hung parliament and a minority government. They're the options on the table. It's going to be very close. There's going to be seats going either way in various states around the country. And I think we may well not know the result of this election days after May the 21st.
Well, and the AEC is telling us up front about postals, about early voting, about how hard counting that much is going to be, let alone the phone stuff, all the rest of it.